On behalf of the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society, I'd like to welcome you to the PBSCCS Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Messina.
Jeff Mathers of the Detroit Tigers organization. Jeff, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate your time. Tell the listeners about yourself, if you would, please.
Well, Chris, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. Like you said, my name is Jeff Mathers. I'm from Elmira, New York, and I got my bachelor's degree from Ithaca College in exercise science. And, a little background information. I was in the exercise science club at Ithaca College, and that's how I got my experience working with club teams. We didn't have like a strength and conditioning coach per se, so a group of us went around to the club teams, volunteered, and that's how I got a lot of my experience. Played baseball my whole life. I originally went to Manhattan College in New York City. I was an engineering major, and then I transferred to Ithaca, where I played a season there, and I got more into, the exercise science, career. They had a great department there, and, I knew from there I wanted to become a trainer for baseball players. So, it's kind of a funny story. When I was playing, I started following Jeff Cavalier. He's with Athlean X. I don't know if you know him, but he kind of had this portal called Big League Training, and I started doing that, and that kind of introduced me into strength and conditioning. So I worked with my advisor at Ithaca, kind of loaded up my classwork, passed my CSCS senior year, and that really gave me a lot of opportunities within strength and conditioning. Some other stuff, I was supposed to intern at Penn State University under Craig Fitzgerald. He's kind of bounced around. He's one of the great, football strength and conditioning coaches right now. He was at the Texans and Tennessee, but I ended up getting an interview and getting a job with the Tigers. Chris Walter, our head guy, he's one of the great strength conditioning coaches in baseball. He's been in baseball forever, and he's really taught me a lot. Baseball wise, when I started with the Tigers, 2014, I was in Low A in Grand Rapids, Michigan, West Michigan Whitecaps. 2015-16, I was in High A with the Lakeland Flying Tigers. Last year, Erie Seawolves, Double A, and then this year I'm in Toledo with the Mud Hens, Triple A.
So I didn't know you were an engineering major prior to getting into this. I was as well, and spent one semester. I was like, not for me. This is not for me
yeah.
at all.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough doing baseball and engineering at the same time. So, I knew I still wanted to play. So, I said, it would be awesome to, I love training and I love playing baseball, so why not mix the two together? And that's kind of how I got this gig,
I'm right there with you, man. My dad was like, you spend so much time in the gym, why don't you just do that instead? I was like,
yeah.
You know what? I'm going to actually listen to you this time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you're in AAA this year. We met when you were in Erie. Tell me about some adjustments that you've had to make. I know it's only one level, but you're one step away from the big leagues in AAA, and I'm sure things are a little different there. So tell me about some adjustments you've had to make.
Yeah, so, AAA level is more older guys, more experience, and guys are kind of going up and down between the big leagues and AAA. So you as a strength coach have to make a lot of adjustments per se. So, many guys at this level already have their own routines. So you basically have to, gain their trust, and you have to get them to buy in. And, one thing I try to do, I try to get what the organization believes in and our philosophies, and I try to, feel out what the players want to do, and I try to blend them together. So basically, the player's happy with his program. The organization is happy that, they're following some kind of, program within their limits. And, so the main thing at the end of the day, you want all the guys to perform at a high level day in and day out. So anything that you can do to, help them in that way, I think is huge.
Yeah, I got you, man. That's a pretty good way to put it, blending the organization's philosophy with what they want to do. When they have a little say in what they're doing, it goes a long way instead of just, you must do this. Like, hey, let's do this, but I know you like to do this too, so let's mix it. That's good,
yeah,
man.
Exactly, yeah.
So I've seen on your Instagram you do a lot of different things. I saw you swinging Indian clubs recently and doing some landmine pressing. And so I'm interested in this question that I have for you. What do you believe in within strength and conditioning that others think you are crazy for believing?
Yeah. Well, I like to try everything. I really believe that, as a strength coach, you can never be closed-minded. So you should always be trying new things because at the end of the day, each athlete is different. So, a lot of the stuff that I like to do in my free time, I'm not going to do with athletes, obviously, but, some things that make sense, it could work with one athlete and another athlete couldn't work. So I think the more variety of exercises and things like that you have, you can build trust with different players in different ways. So I think one big thing people kind of think I'm a little crazy is the flows. I don't know if you've seen the animal flows and stuff, but I follow Edu Portal, his name is, and he's Conor McGregor's trainer, and he likes to do these flows, they're called, and they're just basic movement patterns. They look funny when you first see him. They're like, what is he doing? Like, he looked like a ballerina on the floor. But there's a lot of good movement patterns, like your basic bear crawl, your crab, and it teaches stability, movement, which in today's game I think we're getting away from movement a lot, and it's more like weights, and guys can't really move anymore. So I think that's one thing people might think I'm a little crazy for doing, but it's different. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, when a guy comes to me with something that I've either never heard of or never tried, my first instinct is just try it, because if you can have a conversation with the guy about it, they're probably going to be like, oh, wow, this guy really does care.
Yeah.
And along the lines of the flowing, I'm trying to set up an episode with somebody to discuss flowing. I'm not going to tell you who it is and give any secrets away yet, but in the future on this podcast, we will have somebody talking about flowing, and I will connect you two so that you guys can have a good talk about that.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So what do you believe makes a strength and conditioning coach successful? Maybe first in general and then in baseball specifically.
Well, I think, like I kind of stated earlier, being able to, in general, whether you're in baseball or not, connecting with your client, your athlete, finding, things they're good at and things they're bad at, and what they like and dislike, and being able to, if they don't like a certain exercise, you finding an alternative that may hit the same muscle group, for example, or finding what they like. At the end of the day, you just got to build trust. And then for an athlete, for myself, I think being successful is same thing I said earlier, having some feel, and then finding a program that works for each guy individually. And I think that's it's a little easier at the lower levels where you're teaching guys how to get into routines, but a good strength coach at the higher level finds something that works for each specific guy. So I think that's something that'll make you, a successful strength coach. And teaching, obviously, teaching a guy something new is definitely something that'll make you successful.
No, that's perfect, man, because you have something for everybody in there. The lower levels, it's a little more structured. The higher levels, it's a little bit more feel, like you said.
That's cool.
And that keeps coming up on the podcast lately, is having feel.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I'm talking to older strength coaches or what, but it just keeps coming up, having some feel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's good, man.
And I think what a lot of people don't realize is it's a really long season. So, if you're pounding guys in the ground every single day, it adds up over time. So, there's bus trips where we get in really late. That's usually the days where, you might want to scale back a little bit on conditioning or workouts, something like that. So.
Yeah, man, for sure. In like an individual day, it doesn't seem like that long. You're only at the ballpark a few hours, but like over the span of 6, 7, 8 months, whatever it is, all those small days start to add up real fast.
Yeah, for sure.
What advice do you have for others in the field, maybe just looking to get into baseball or just anybody in general?
Oh, for sure. I would say connecting with other strength coaches, learning new things. You can never have, a big enough network. You never know, if you ever go into the private sector and you know someone there, or if you go into a different sport, you can really open a lot of doors by connecting to other people. I would ask a lot of questions, always be willing to learn, and I think that'll open a lot of doors for you. One thing I did, which I would recommend for, kids in college, I loaded, like I said earlier, I loaded up my classwork, and I actually graduated early from Ithaca, and that way I didn't miss a full baseball season. So instead of graduating in May or whenever they graduate, I graduated in December, and I was able to get directly into baseball starting in January. So that's one recommendation I would say for the collegiate sector guys if they're still in their undergraduate.
Yeah, that's actually really good, man. That's not something I've ever really thought of. I graduated early as well. I was a full year. I had a lot of college credit from high school, but it makes sense to try to get it done in the winter so that you can get into baseball. When I was in grad school and I first got in, it was kind of awkward because I got offered the job, but I was still trying to finish school. And so, I was lucky my supervisor was willing to work with me, but I could see where it would be a problem where you're trying to graduate in the spring, but baseball's starting. The schedule of baseball and like the job situation is very awkward in timing in relation to college semesters. So that's good. I haven't ever thought of that. That's really good advice.
Yeah.
So you mentioned just continuing to learn and trying new things, and you got a whole bunch of different stuff that I've seen, like I said, on Instagram. So where are you going for continuing ed that you're learning these new things? Are you reading books on it, attending seminars, listening to podcasts? Where are you going for continuing ed?
Yeah, so I bounce around between a lot of things. So I'm a big publications guy. Like not only engineering, I love numbers and data. So I like reading like the Strength Conditioning Journal. They have a lot of good research articles. I apply a lot of that stuff. I actually follow Joel Jameson, which a couple of the guys I work with, they kind of showed me him. He's more of an MMA trainer, but he has a website called 8 Weeks Out, and he puts up a lot of really good research articles and about like recovery modalities and energy systems, a lot of good things. So I follow him. This past offseason, I went to NSCA conference in Charlotte. That's a great opportunity to, network with, professional trainers, collegiate sector trainers, and there's a lot of different things going on, a lot of different presentations, so you can kind of pick, which events you want to go to. But podcasts, I'll occasionally listen to like the NSCA coaching podcast or strength conditioning journal podcast. This podcast, of course. But yeah.
If you haven't read Joel Jameson's book, which I think you probably have, that one is very good. I go back to that one just about once a year and reread through it and make new notes and check out old notes. That one's very good. And then I'm on his I get like emails from him all the time with new stuff, so he's very good to follow.
Yes, he is, for sure.
So I'd like to do a lightning round with you. What do you think about that?
Let's do it.
All right, cool. So first question I got for you, biggest influence in the field of strength and conditioning, who is it?
There's a lot of them, but I would say a buddy I worked with a couple years ago, my first year. His name's Kyle Bergman. He's not in baseball anymore, but he's working in Raleigh at he's kind of running his own gig down there. But he really opened my eyes to strength and conditioning that first year. One big thing he taught me, which I've carried the past 5 years, is that always have a purpose in terms of strength and conditioning. So when you're doing a workout, every exercise you should be doing for a purpose. You shouldn't be just throwing exercises together. Always be asking yourself questions. Why am I doing this, circuit in this way? Why am I doing this type of conditioning? So I think he really, really opened my eyes to the strength and conditioning field, and he really helped me there.
Yeah, I got you, man. My mentor always used to tell me you have to have a why. If I point to something in your program and say, why are you doing it here, this way, this amount of reps, sets, whatever, you need to have a reason why you're doing it. So exactly. That one rings with me for sure. One piece of equipment to train with, what would it be?
Easy one for me. I would go kettlebell.
Kettlebell, okay.
Yeah, because you can do a variety of movements. You can do, stability movements, pushes, pulls, work in various planes of motion. So I'd go with the kettlebell.
It's funny because when I ask this question to people, barbell comes up a lot. If I talk to like my buddies in the college setting, and kettlebell comes up a lot in baseball. I think part of it is just traveling. You can you can take a kettlebell with you and do so much stuff. Just put it out in the outfield and just run around with it.
Yeah.
Biggest accomplishment professionally and or personally?
I'd say professionally, progressing through the Tigers minor league system so far, and this year was my first year working in big league camp, so that was, a big step for me, being able to, work with the high level athletes, and then accomplishments personally. I don't know. I got a couple certifications that. I got the YBT certification this past offseason, FMS, RSCC. So I would say, strength and conditioning wise, those certifications were great. Passing the CSCS as an undergraduate was pretty big for me. But other than that,
just being well-rounded in all your certs and your knowledge.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that for sure.
Yeah.
Any career other than strength and conditioning?
Well, that's a tough one. Probably something with data. So probably, some type of engineer, I would say.
So when somebody asked me this, I was like, I was an engineering major, and I wouldn't pick engineer. Yeah.
I think if I had a little more time in college, there's a possibility I could have went that route, but yeah, it was tough with playing baseball. You got practice till 6, and then you're up till 2 a.m. So
You're like
yeah,
18 years old and you're doing Calc 3 in the middle
yeah,
in the middle of the outfield during BP trying to figure
yeah,
things out.
exactly.
All right, I got one more for you, and I've referenced it a couple times already. On your Instagram, you're doing a ton of stuff. So what's one exercise that we should all try that we're probably not doing right now?
Ooh, let's see. I know a lot of my uh, peers probably disagree with me, but I think the movement flows. I think you guys should, everyone that's listening out there should really try it. Start really basic, and kind of progress from there. I'm on YouTube a lot, so I'll just go on YouTube and see, what guys are doing. And I do a little portal called GMB Fitness too, and that teaches you basic movement patterns. Obviously the FMS stuff. So I try that stuff.
Cool, man, for sure. We'll talk more about it. I have my own ideas on it and some things I like to incorporate, mostly like into my warm up and stuff. But
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
definitely does interest me.
Yeah.
So if the listeners want to get in touch with you, where can we get more from you? I'm going to link your Instagram for sure.
Okay.
But you got anything else?
Yeah. Instagram jmathers2, Mathers. Email Jeff, Jeff Mathers, Mathers 12 at yahoo.com.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Spend some time with me this morning, and it was good catching up with you, and we'll chat soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
All right, everybody, that concludes this episode with Jeff. I hope you enjoyed this one. Jeff's a really good guy, and he's got a lot of cool ideas that are out of the box and different. 3 things that I took from Jeff: always have a purpose, always be open to trying new things, and connect with others. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you again on the next one.